Capcom, Konami, and Nintendo are video game developers and some of the most recognized developers in the video game industry. Capcom was founded in 1983, Konami was founded in 1969, and Nintendo was founded in 1883. Nintendo originally was a handmade playing card company. All three of the developers encountered a chip data shortage and could not mass produce games as quickly. If these developers did not overcome the chip shortage and make certain games like Super Mario Bros. 3 to bring back fans, we wouldn't have video games today. Konami was founded by Kagemasa Kazuki, Yoshinobu Nakama, and Tatsu Miyasko. Konami was originally a jukebox repair company, but when gaming came around, which wasn't that far away, they quickly set on developing video games. In 1983, Konami encountered a rival developer called Capcom. Capcom released some of the most recognized games to date, such as the Mega Man X series, Street Fighter II, and the rest of the series, and of course, Final Fight, and many more. But so did Konami. Konami and Capcom were calmly fighting, and still fighting today, over the best video game developer title, excluding Nintendo. Capcom also won awards such as Best Video Game Developer, Best Graphics, and a few others. Capcom also released what may be the best one-on-one fighting game, Street Fighter II, which sold well over 30 million units. But Konami, on the other hand, released a fourth game to the original Castlevania. They called it Super Castlevania 4. You can now use the main character Simon Belmont's whip and whip in all 6 directions instead of 1. And the original Castlevania, to most people, is still a fun game even if you could only whip in one direction. But people still fight over who's better. After Nintendo's Super Mario Bros. 2 came out, people loved it, but didn't know the truth about it. In Japan, they got an entirely different game, but a game tester said it was too hard and punishingly cruel. So, they made an entirely different game for North America. But when the Super Nintendo came out, Nintendo decided to release a game called Super Mario All-Stars. Super Mario All-Stars is a collaboration of all the Super Mario games. But one game was different. Super Mario The Lost Levels. People didn't know this game, and then they did the research. This game is actually the game Japan got in place of Super Mario Bros. 2. Super Mario Bros. 2, the one North America got, is actually a rip-off of another game called Doki Doki Panic. Another company owned the characters to Doki Doki Panic, but Nintendo owned everything else. So Nintendo decided to make an exact copy, except put their own characters into the game, so they didn't run into any court cases with the other company. And that's what we didn't know about Super Mario Bros. 2. But we still didn't know about that fiasco until several years later. And Super Mario Bros. 2 was selling out in stores, mostly because of the chip shortage. The gaming industry didn't have very many chips. Chips are the piece in the game that reads the data in a cartridge when you're playing. But Nintendo, Capcom, and Konami overcame that shortage. And without that, we wouldn't have gaming today. And Nintendo, Capcom, and Konami received a shortage of money, leaving Capcom nearly bankrupt with only $153 million left to support a whole company. That's not a lot. And if they didn't save their companies, today gaming wouldn't be a thing, and around that time would be called tubular. After that, people didn't realize that Capcom, Konami, and Nintendo saved the gaming industry. But they kept making sales, kept mass producing, and kept making great games. The long-term impact is what really shines. People now love Capcom, Konami, and Nintendo more than ever. Sales increased by a lot. Life has been good for these developers. And they never make you bored with their content. And that's where Capcom, Konami, and Nintendo really shine. These developers finally showed the world that they saved the gaming industry. And they finally understand how close they were from falling into non-existence. Capcom, Nintendo, and Konami are still around today and made an enormous impact on the world. Without them, gaming would be left in the dust. They have come to make greater titles than ever, such as Devil May Cry, Resident Evil, and way more Super Mario games. Now, more than 1.2 billion people are playing video games. And that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Capcom, Konami, and Nintendo.